Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We are joined today by Robert Waggoner. So this is very exciting, and I'm kind of pumped because the topic is something I really enjoy. So Robert wrote the acclaimed book Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self, now in its 15th printing, and co-authored the award-winning Lucid Dreaming: Plain and Simple with Carolyn McCready. His books have been translated into 8 languages. A past president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, IASD, Waggoner serves as a co-editor of the online magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience, the only ongoing publication devoted specifically to lucid dreaming. Robert Waggoner is considered a lucid dreaming expert. Since 1975, he has logged more than 1,000 lucid dreams and conducted workshops on 4 continents. So thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you about lucid dreaming and dreaming in general. I love it.
Great, Kim. Thank you so much. And Barb, it's good to see you.
It's very good to see you too. And I'm really excited about it too, because Kim has taught me a little bit about it as well. And so I know that she's really excited too. So we both are. So
Great.
Thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started on this journey?
You know, as a young boy, I just had fascinating dreams, and I can even remember having precognitive dreams when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Like in the dream, I would hear an unusual phrase, and then 3 hours later on the playground with my little friends, in 4th grade, one of them would say that exact phrase. And I was like blown away. I was like, whoa, I heard that in my dream, and now this kid has said it. And so I just had an interesting dream life and had a lot of fun with it. But it was when I was a junior in high school, I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. And in that book, his shamanic teacher tells him that he can become consciously aware in his dreams. He just has to find his hands. But there wasn't really a technique, and so I just invented my own technique, and within a few days had my first lucid dream.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Pretty young too to be doing that.
Yeah, and young to start that. So I've dream journaled for a long time now, and so I find that helps. And I'm interested to hear how you kind of go into your lucid dreaming and know that you're lucid dreaming, or maybe explain what lucid dreaming is for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah, so a lucid dream is any dream in which you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. You literally know, hey, wait a second, this is a dream. And so the very first one happened to me spontaneously. I was probably 11 years old or so. And so I was in the public library looking at books, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this little baby Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaur walking through the book stacks at the library. And even though I was 11 years old, I thought, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct. How can this be? And then it occurred to me, this has to be a dream. I'm dreaming this. And I thought, well, boy, if this is a dream, then I can wake up. And I told myself to wake up, and I woke up. So that was my very first spontaneous one. But in 1975, after I read this book by Carlos Castaneda, I knew about the power of suggestion because I was interested in that and hypnosis. So this is what I would do before I went to sleep. I'd look at the palms of my hands, and I'd just focus on them, and I would tell myself in my mind, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And I would just say that for about 5 minutes and then go asleep. After 3 nights of doing this practice, I'm walking through my high school hallway, and suddenly, boom, my hands popped right in front of my face. And I thought, oh my God, my hands, this is a dream. And all of a sudden I realized those football player guys, hey, they're just dream figures. And I reached over and touched the nearby wall, and it was cool and nubby, just like it would be in real life. But I knew, it's really a dream. And I went on and just had a really profound lucid dream. So that's what got me hooked into lucid dreaming.
Yeah,
Wow.
that is really cool.
Very cool to think that you could just start it that easily. Because I know that when Kimmy told me about what she was doing for lucid dreaming, I was try to do it after that, and it was amazing because yeah, it works. If you say to yourself, Kim said, before you go to bed, Mom, just say, "I'm going to lucid dream tonight. I am going to have a lucid dream tonight." And when I finally had the lucid dream, I went, "Holy cow, this is unreal."
Yeah, one of the important things when I teach workshops and give classes, I always tell people get prepared because when you become lucid, if you get too excited, you're going to wake up. So when you become lucid, don't get too excited. Just tell yourself, stay calm. This is a dream. Stay calm. And then you can have a longer, more enjoyable lucid dream. But you're right, Barb. When it happens, is like, holy cow, this is amazing.
It it is really amazing. And I love like when I dream at night because I like to dream journal in the morning, and I find so often we forget what our dreams are. I usually can I used to have to just get up and write right away in my dream journal or else the dream was gone. And now I'm to the point where I hook things in my dream, I guess is the only way I can explain it. So it's like, oh, there's a boy in the red coat. Remember the boy in the red coat. Remember the boy in the red coat. And then when I wake up in the morning, 10 minutes after I wake up, I can still just be like, oh, the boy in the red coat. Okay. Yeah. And then the whole dream comes back. Right. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I do something similar to you. So when I wake up, the first thing I think is, what was I just dreaming? Because I know if I don't grab it in that first 10 or 15 seconds, it's just going to evaporate. And then what I'll do, I'll roll over in bed, and in the upper left hand of my little dream journal, I'll just put red sailboat, stormy seas, angry cat, or whatever. And in the morning, I'll look at that and think, oh yeah, I was on a sailboat and there's this cat and blah blah blah, and then I can pull it all back together. But you really have to think, what was I just dreaming? Because otherwise,
you're right. It just, whew. But if I do those things, I tend to remember them better. But yeah, you're right. Because there is some mornings that I wake up and like my husband talks to me or something, and I'm like, crap, the dream's gone. And it's gone because I didn't hook anything into my dream to remember it. Right. So.
Right. But it can, this whole thing of lucid dreaming can be very interesting. So I got started by looking at my hands, and that was a good way for me to get started. And a lot of beginners go that route. But like Barb said, the second probably easiest way to get into it is just the power of suggestion, like you, Kim, encouraged her to do. And so one suggestion that I use is, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. Because in a lot of our dreams, Tom Cruise is knocking at your front door to deliver pizza. And, you grab the pizza and give him a $5 tip and go on your way. We just go with whatever happens, and a lot of strange stuff happens. But if you tell yourself that you're going to notice the strange things and then be more critical about it and think, oh, what's Tom Cruise doing delivering pizzas? He's not that bad off. This must be a dream. So the power of suggestion, I think, is the second easiest way to get into lucid dreaming.
So do you find, since you've been doing the lucid dreaming, are your dreams so more colorful and that kind of thing compared to sort of when you first started? And does it give you some, do you understand them more because of it?
Those are good questions. So one thing I want to just tell people is, there's been a lot of scientific research on lucid dreaming. So it got scientifically validated around 1980 through the work of Stephen LaBerge at Stanford and through the work of Keith Hearn at the University of Hull in England. And both of them had this same idea that normally when we dream, we have rapid eye movement. So like if you're watching a baby and its little eyes are moving all over the place, you can be pretty sure it's in the dream state. So what they thought is, could they bring a lucid dreamer into the sleep lab, and before they went to sleep, say, if you become lucidly aware, we want you to move your eyes left to right 8 times. And we're going to put these REM polygraph pads on your eyes that'll measure your eye movement. And so if we see your eyes move left to right 8 times, then that's the signal that we know you're consciously aware. And so it was in 1975 when Alan Worsley at the University of Hull, he did that in the sleep lab. He became lucidly aware and moved his eyes. But what I'm getting to here is for a lot of lucid dreamers, having one lucid dream a month is about as much as they do. Other people get up to having 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe 10 a month, but that's as much as they do. So just the fact that you've had lucid dreams doesn't mean that suddenly all your dreams are lucid. It happens intermittently, and a lot of times, like we've talked about, you have to really kind of focus on it and help to induce it in order for it to occur.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I was just wondering, because I thought, does it get brighter, or do you understand more of the dream?
Well, yeah, that's
so long.
That's a good point. What I would say is this. Oftentimes when you become lucidly aware, then all of a sudden you can decide what you want to do. You know, do I want to fly through that wall and go on an adventure? Do I want to ask that dream figure, what do you represent? And oftentimes the dream figure will tell you exactly what it represents. That's really amazing and all. So you have to decide what you want to do. Sometimes the environment does seem a little bit brighter, but sometimes I've noticed too that it seems kind of dusky or a little bit dark. And normally when I become lucid and it's kind of dusky, I'll shout out greater awareness now. And suddenly it's like someone turns on the lights and the environment isn't as dusky. And so sometimes I think when I see that kind of dusky environment, it kind of means that I'm not as emotionally energized as I normally would be. And so therefore it's kind of like the lights are reflecting, you know, that I'm not in my typical good mood or whatever. So, but once you decide, you know, once you become lucid, then you have a lot of options. But part of the problem is there's a lot of lucid dreamers out there who don't understand all the potential of lucid dreaming. And that's why I wrote my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, because I wanted to show people you can access creativity, you can use it for emotional healing, people have used it for physical healing, people have used it to interact with a larger awareness. People have used it for spiritual practices like meditating in a lucid dream and more. And it's an open platform. Once you know how, you can really just do some amazing things in a lucid dream.
So could it take you into astral travel and that kind of thing as well? Because you said moving around in it. And so that was the very first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, you know, oftentimes people ask me, is lucid dreaming the same as out of bodies or astral travel? And so first I'd say it's kind of like comparing a house cat to a mountain lion. They have some similar characteristics. They both have fur and a long tail and pointed ears, but they're not exactly the same. So think of like an out of body experience, like a person's having a heart attack and suddenly they find themselves up on the ceiling looking down at the nurses and doctors trying to revive their heart. So a lucid dream is realizing within a dream that you're dreaming. So then you can see, well, that's not exactly the same. You know, being out of your body or something, having your awareness move is kind of different. But you can, if you know how, actually move from a lucid dream into an out-of-body experience. And so if there's someone out there listening who wants to give this a try, become lucidly aware, stabilize the lucid dream, and then announce to your unconscious mind or your larger awareness, take me to the next form or take me to the next level. And normally when I do that, boom, I find myself consciously aware normally in the room underneath my bed, like the kitchen. And now I can fly through the neighborhood in a OBE kind of state. So it's interesting. Most people would never think about trying to do that, but it is possible.
That is really cool. I like that. I would like to try that. I need some more practice with lucid dreaming though, but I have heard about all the benefits of it as well is right. Like you were saying, the creativity and things like that. And I have heard that, yeah, when you're lucid dreaming, you can go to places that you wouldn't normally be able to reach in your dreams for whatever the reason is that you want to go there to get that. But I'm going to try the
there's a lot of different ways that people travel. So for example, some people have a technique of like, let's say they want to go to ancient Egypt and the pyramids. They'll go find a mirror in their lucid dream, and then they'll ask the mirror to show them, the pyramids in ancient Egypt. And as soon as they see that, then they jump into the mirror and they pop out, at the pyramids. So there's a lot of funny, interesting ways like that. Of course, people will say, well, is it just your imagination? And a lot of times that's a wonderful question and really something that people ought to look at. But occasionally you'll learn something about the space. And then when you come back with what you've noticed in that lucid dream, you can begin to Google search and discover whether you saw something factual or actual that was outside of your own knowing. Because occasionally people discover some interesting things.
Wow. So you must have a lot of stories that you can share about what you've experienced as well as others then.
I do have some interesting stories. I remember one time I kept dreaming of people from Japan, but they looked like they were from like 1,000 years ago because their haircut, it looked like their hair had been cut with an axe or something like that. These were not modern people. These were ancient people. And I remember one time, so I see this Japanese guy, he's looking right at me. And I notice he has his hand like this. And I become lucidly aware because I've been dreaming of these Japanese quite frequently. And all of a sudden he goes like that. And he throws these black pebbles on a board in front of me. And he examines the black pebbles really closely. And he looks at me and says, "Your life is almost half over now, but I see no major health problems." And then he just starts to laugh like this was the funniest thing in the world and wakes up. And so, I Google searched, throwing black pebbles and all. Couldn't get anything. I asked people who had been to Japan, had you ever heard of this? People said, nope, hadn't ever heard of it. Finally, I was at a conference where there was a woman who was the descendant of like 6 Zen masters. And I sat by her at lunch at this conference and I said, have you ever heard of this? And I explained how the gentleman threw the stones and she goes, ancient Shinto practice. How do you know this? And I said, wow. I saw this in a lucid dream, and that's how I discovered it. So there's been a number of things like that where I've discovered things, and like once I discovered some ancient writing. I saw it in a lucid dream because I was looking through this guy's eyes as he was reading this metal tablet, and so I asked, what is this? I wanted to know what is this guy reading, because the writing was so strange. And my inner awareness told me it was the Heart Sutra, which is a very small book, like maybe three or 4 pages. I had never read the Heart Sutra. I didn't know that at the time. So I woke up. First, I Googled the Heart Sutra and realized that, yeah, indeed, it was very short. Then the next thing I started Googling to try to see that language. So I put, was that Sanskrit? No, it wasn't Sanskrit. Was it Pali? No, it wasn't Pali. Finally, I found this ancient language that was used by traders between India and China from the 3rd century to the 6th century. And that had some of the symbols that I had seen. And at that time, of course, there was a lot of Buddhist ideas that were going back and forth between these countries from the 3rd to the 6th century. But anyway, again, you see things, and if you go to work and try to Google search it, sometimes you'll realize that you saw something that was actually accurate.
Wow.
That's really neat. And anybody can lucid dream, right? You just have to practice and teach yourself and have patience.
I think almost anyone can. There was an interesting study by a woman in Germany. She wanted to know when people began lucid dreaming. So she went to a school that was ages 6 to 19. It was 694 students. And she found out that 51% of them had already had a lucid dream. There were even some 6-year-olds who had had a lucid dream. But what really surprised me when I read her research survey was that more than 20% of the 8-year-olds had already had a lucid dream. But no one taught them how to do it. It just happened spontaneously. But we just live in a culture where people don't talk about dreaming very much. And so these kids are having these amazing experiences, but no one talks about dreams. So, that they just don't share them. But it was really interesting. So the reason I bring that up is just to say that lucid dreaming is natural and spontaneous. But if we truly understood it and valued it, then it would be more likely to flourish in the culture. But until we get to that point, it's just going to be one of these things that some people are really into and other people are learning how to do.
Yeah. I really enjoy dream journaling, and I read somewhere or heard, I don't know, that if you remember your dreams, then it's a message, not necessarily a dream. And so I like that, because then now I tend to reflect on what I dreamt after, you write it all out, and then you're like, okay, so what does that mean? Because sometimes it's so out there that you're like, what does that actually have to mean for me? Right. So I love that part of dream journaling now.
Yeah. Sometimes what I do is, like, sometimes before I go to sleep, I'll pose a question to my dreaming self, show me what's the best approach, this or that. And sometimes I'll feel like I get an answer, but I still don't understand it because it's in symbolic terms. So then I'll ask myself, I'll say, look, you have to treat me like a kindergartner. Make it so simple that even a kindergartner could get it. And then that next night I'll get the simple answer and I'll go, oh, okay, now I understand. But you're right. Dreams are another interesting, they're kind of like a computer language. Computer languages might be ones and zeros and all sorts of things. But dream language is normally symbolic. And you really, sometimes it's kind of like each dream is like a poem. You really have to kind of sit with it and symbolically kind of process it in order to understand it and benefit from it.
Yeah, I like that. that was well said. Yeah, I just find it so fascinating with the dreaming and the lucid dreaming, and I was starting to teach myself how to do it. Haven't done it for a while, but I did have one out of body experience when I was about 21. I had fallen asleep and my son was on my chest, and I remember looking down at myself and my son on my chest, and I got scared, right? Because you're like, what? And then you wake up. And I think it's the same with lucid dreaming. If you get, like you said, too excited or you kind of get freaked out, then you just kind of wake up right out of that dream.
Right. But most lucid dreams, you just realize within the dream you're dreaming, because you see something strange or unusual, or you realize that you jumped over a mud puddle, but you floated for 30 feet. And, how did that happen? I did have an interesting lucid dream. This occurred on January 1st, the morning of January 1st of 2022. So what happened? I see my mother-in-law, Nona. But then I think, wait a second, she's been dead for 10 years now. And suddenly I realize, oh, this has to be a dream, because that's the only thing that makes sense. And then I kind of started to laugh. I thought, wow, she waited 10 years before she came to see me. and so she comes up to me, and she doesn't look like the age that she passed away in her 80s. She looks like she's about 40 years old. And it even looks like she sewed the blue dress that she's wearing, because she was kind of into sewing when she was younger. So she comes up to me, and I ask her a question that I always ask to dream figures, which is a really open-ended question. Like, it's either who are you, or what do you have to tell me? And so I go up to Nona and I say, well, what do you have to tell me? And she says, I want you to know that September is a very important month. And I kind of started joking with her, and I said, well, Nona, if you believe September is important, I'm sure it's important. And she looked at me and goes, no, I want you to understand that September is a very important month. And so at that, I kind of said goodbye and woke up. And I thought, boy, what could happen in September? And then I thought, oh my gosh, she's telling me that my mom is going to pass away in September. And so, I want to say that it really helped me to have 9 months notice. And my wife and I went to visit my mom the final weekend of August. And the next weekend she passed away. Wow. And I was just so happy that we were able to share that final weekend with her. And it was one of those things, no one would have guessed that she was going to pass away within a week or something like that. But so sometimes these are the really interesting ones, because when you meet someone who's deceased, a lot of times people just get emotional. They want to hug and cry, and I miss you, and this, that, and the other. And I appreciate that. I mean, it is a powerful reunion, but you do have to wonder, am I seeing a dream symbol, which is just kind of a projection of my grief or my memories or whatever, or am I seeing something else, something more legitimate? And so that's why I think it's always important to ask questions like, what do you have to tell me, or what do you have to say, and see if they have anything to say, because sometimes you get clued into something that's coming down the way.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's but like you said, really nice, right? To have that knowledge ahead of time, because very often we don't have that.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And also one thing I've noticed too is a lot of people who have dealt with the grief because a loved one passed away suddenly, sometimes they've used lucid dreaming as kind of to heal their grief. I was doing a workshop with Chinese people in Taiwan and over in that area of Asia. And there was this one woman, great lucid dreamer. And she said that her dad passed away suddenly when she was a teenager. And so anyway, in the 30-day course, she becomes lucid when she's with her dad in a pickup truck, and she realizes her dad is driving. And then she thinks, wait a second, dad's dead. Oh, this is a lucid dream. And they begin to have a conversation in the lucid dream. And the one thing that really surprised me, at the end of her conversation, she asked her father, Dad, do you love me? Because she said in her waking life, her father had never told her that he loved her. And she said that when she heard her father in the lucid dream, say that, of course, he loved her and had always loved her. That was a big moment. And so I think sometimes when, people there's some people who get really into grief and can barely dig their way out of it. And sometimes I think, perhaps they might learn lucid dreaming and use that as a technique to interact with a deceased loved one and realize that in many respects, they still exist and they can converse with them and that kind of thing.
Now you talk about like you've been studying this for so many years, and so your levels of lucid dreaming has really come a long way. Now, do you think at some point that lucid dreaming could take you into, like, you could study something like another language or something like that? Could it take you that far, or is that like, whoa, Barb, slow down?
No, Barb, I think you're onto something. Here's one interesting thing. So most of us who get into lucid dreaming, at the beginning, we just use it to play around and have fun. Because you can fly through the air, you can fly through walls, you can talk to dream figures, you can dance on the ceiling. I mean, you can just do all sorts of crazy things in a lucid dream. So most of us just have fun. It's only later do you realize that you can use it for something else and to improve yourself or learn things that are outside of your own knowing. So for example, in Germany, there was this psychotherapist who taught himself how to lucid dream in 1959. This guy was a philosophy and psychology student, and he basically taught himself a technique to become lucidly aware. So he wrote this book about lucid dreaming and about how he realized that in lucid dreams, he could do actions that were too dangerous in the waking state. For example, he liked to downhill ski, but he knew that if he tried some maneuvers in the waking state, he might crash and destroy his knees. But in a lucid dream, he could try him out because, even if he crashed, it was just a lucid dream. He hadn't hurt his body. And so he realized that all of a sudden, by practicing in his lucid dreams, suddenly it was like he had muscle memory, and now he could actually do it on the physical slopes. And
Wow.
he became a coach for German professional athletes who were downhill skiers. And so in Germany now, if you can imagine this, there was a survey of professional athletes, and if I remember correctly, I think there's a percentage of German athletes who use lucid dreaming to enhance their skills, to enhance their athletic skills. In my second book, I tell this story of this one young guy. His name was Matt Hermanzik, and he was getting a master's degree in sports physiology and had to swim to do that. He was a gymnast and really didn't care about swimming. And the swimming professor told him that he swam like a stone, that he was a horrible swimmer. He just, had no feeling. But this guy was such a great lucid dreamer. In his lucid dreams, he would practice swimming. And sometimes he said he would swim through gummy bears. Sometimes he would make the pool yogurt, and he'd swim through yogurt. Sometimes he would put his awareness into his coach's eyes and watch him and try to think, what his coach would tell him to improve. And he said he improved so much over the semester that his coach was just dumbfounded. He'd never seen someone go from swimming like a stone to suddenly really moving through the water with grace and ease. But he practiced in his lucid dreams. So how this goes even further than just physical practice, you can do stuff like this. You can, in a lucid dream, stop and begin to meditate. And I'll tell you, in 30 or 40 seconds, you will be in the most profound meditation experience you've ever had. It's just like boom, just boom. But what happens if you start to meditate, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, after 5 or 6 lucid dreams in which you meditate, in the waking world, what used to take you 20 minutes to get down to a deep level, now it's like 4 or 5 minutes. You're just there. It's like in the lucid dream, you just cleared out all the debris and now you just get there so much quicker. And so I think lucid dreaming can actually affect the mind in a positive way, such that certain things that seem more difficult are now much easier because you've done them in a lucid dream. In fact, people who practice Buddhist dream yoga as part of a 3-year monastery experience, they say that the monks say that an action performed in the lucid dream state is normally 9 times more powerful. And I think they say that because in a lucid dream, you're already at a deep level of consciousness. And so when you do something, it's just that much more powerful. It's just at a whole different level.
Wow.
I'd like to try that. The meditating. Well, because when you meditate, like I recently went away to this retreat, and so we were meditating all weekend. So you're really like walking away after 2 days of that. You're like in just vibrating, just because you're always in kind of that theta state, right? And
Yeah.
so to try that, oh yeah, that sounds like a rush.
You know, it's really surprised me, and of course there's different types of meditation. So for me in the lucid dreams, I would just empty my mind, and suddenly I was just like, oh my gosh, I am having this transcendent experience. But other people have told me, no, when they meditate, they chant a mantra, and so sometimes in a lucid dream, when they begin to chant their mantra, they say it's like 1,000 other people are chanting the mantra along with them. And one time a woman wrote to our magazine, the Lucid Dreaming Experience magazine, and she said that she's a Reiki practitioner. And so in a lucid dream, she was using one of her Reiki chants, and she said suddenly this Japanese woman appeared and walked over to her and explained that she was mispronouncing one of the words, and sat there and taught her how to properly pronounce the Reiki chant for healing. And so the things that happen are just truly, truly profound. So some unexpected stuff happens sometimes. You can't make it up because it's just so unexpected.
Yeah.
So the possibilities at this point of what you're on your studies net are endless. It's kind of what you're saying, right?
Right. And you know, here's a wonderful example of how open this all becomes. I was down in Bogota, Colombia, giving a workshop, and so it was through a Spanish translator. And so I noticed in the front row there was this woman who was asking excellent questions. So I knew she was already a good lucid dreamer because she asked the kind of questions that a good lucid dreamer would ask. But here's the thing that was unusual about her. You know, she's probably 40 years old, but she had all of this pain in her face. And you know, I don't know what happened in her life that you can just see the pain in her face, and there's kind of a little bit of a cloud over her head, but she asked excellent questions. Anyway, 6 months later, they have me come back to Bogota and do another workshop, and in walks this woman, and now she looks transformed. 80% of the pain is gone. She's taller, younger, more attractive looking, and all that kind of stuff. And so I ran up to her and I said, "What happened to you?" And she said she was at my first workshop and she had never thought in all her years of lucid dreaming about using it for emotional healing. And so after my workshop, she did exactly like I said, which I tell people, you got to, when it comes to healing, you've got to kind of figure it out in the waking state, what practice you're going to use to perform the healing, because in the lucid dream, you probably won't be able to think up how you should go about it. And so I explained all the different ways you could approach it. Anyway, later that month, she becomes lucid. She stabilizes the lucid dream. She remembers she wants an emotional healing. She calls out for a spiritual figure to appear. Suddenly, a woman in a blue cloak appears. She asks the woman, "Please heal my heart." And she says the woman puts out her hands, and from her hands comes this light right into the lucid dreamer's heart. She said it was the most incredible, profound, energetic experience, feeling. And she said when she woke up, she said she was healed from the trauma that had happened in her life. And then she looked at me and she goes, you know, the strange thing, Robert? And I said, what's that? She said, I can still remember what has happened to me, but now it has no energy. Now it has, you know, it's like all the negative aspect of it was gone. And so it didn't wipe away her memory. It just took all the pain and the hurt and the trauma out of it. And so again, just because you lucid dream doesn't mean you conceptually understand all the things you can do. And that's why I decided to write my first book. And that's why, you know, it's in its 15th printing, is because people read it and go, oh my God, there's so much more you can do than just fly around and have fun and do stuff.
It all makes sense with what you're saying. Yeah.
So
That's
do you think
beautiful.
that if a person was lucid dreaming and is cognitive of it, and you had, I don't know, cancer or some kind of health issue, do you think that there's the possibility that we could go into our lucid dreams and heal ourselves, or find answers to how we could heal ourselves better?
You know, I do. In both of my books are chapters on using lucid dreaming for healing. And some of my some in the chapter you'll read about my friend Ed Kellogg. He has a PhD in biochemistry from Duke, so he's not someone who's just totally woo-woo and out there. But what happened to him in the 80s? He was eating a shish kebab, and he punctured his tonsil with the shish kebab because he put the shish kebab in his mouth. And he said he just didn't care to go to the doctors. So what happened? The tonsil became infected. He started to have these red lines up and down the side of his neck. There was a lot of pain. And so he decided one night that he needed to have like a out of body or something to heal himself. But he became lucidly aware. He basically projected healing intent on his tonsil in order for it to be healed. And he said when he woke up, I think 80 to 90% of the pain had disappeared. Within 2 hours, the red lines disappeared. And within a few hours, 90% of the pain had disappeared. And that's when he began this kind of investigation into using lucid dream for healing. So what he discovered was this. He feels you can definitely use lucid dreaming to cure yourself. And it helps if you directly act within the lucid dream. So like for Ed, he might say, now from my hands with power divine, the healing light on my broken toe will shine. And in the lucid dream, you'll see light come out of his hands right onto his broken toe. And then in the morning he wakes up and the toe feels, infinitely better than it did before. Wow. But he realized you had to have a plan in advance, and by kind of having a chant, that's how he'd do it. Other people would create a ball of healing light in the lucid dream, and then they'd put it over their knee or their thyroid or wherever the issue was. And oftentimes in the morning have a profound experience. Sometimes the people who wrote to me said it actually took 2 lucid dreams. So it was like the first lucid dream cracked the egg, and the second lucid dream, made the omelet or whatever. I mean, they accomplished what they wanted to do. But besides the curative lucid dreams, Ed said that there were also prescriptive lucid dreams, because in some lucid dreams you get a prescription: stop eating XYZ, instead eat this, or stop doing some activity and begin to do this other activity. So that would be a prescription that occurred in a lucid dream. And then other times there'd be a diagnostic lucid dream. And in these examples, people were told beforehand what ailment they were in the process of creating and how they had to nip it in the bud. Or sometimes they were told that actually they had two ailments going on simultaneously, And that's why the doctors couldn't figure it out, because the symptoms were so weird. And then other diagnostic ones, sometimes in lucid dreamers have been told what hospital to go to and what doctor to ask for
Wow.
in order. And so, they would call up this hospital that they'd never been to and ask for Dr. whatever, and doctor, and would have incredible, profound healing experiences. So it's a really interesting thing. But in my books, so I included about a dozen examples of people who managed to heal themselves, but I also included a few examples of people who had no healing. And you can just see by reading the examples how the people who didn't have a healing, they didn't believe in it. They got offered advice and refused in the lucid dream to accept it because they didn't like the advice. And you can just see it was just like, oh my gosh, you had this golden opportunity and you turned your back on it. But I really think that people, if they really understood lucid dreaming, they would see that, oh yeah, it's just like a deep hypnosis. In deep hypnosis, people who are bleeding can stop the bleeding. In deep hypnosis, people can, their heart is racing, they can make their heart stop racing. That's already all been shown. So at a lucid dream, you're at a different level of the conscious mind, and you can really make some profound things happen.
Wow. That's really cool. And I think those people that don't listen in the dreams probably don't listen in real life either when advice is given, right? So often we do that where we ask for, show me a sign or give me some advice or let that person, pay attention. Then we get bombarded with the answers and we're like, no, we don't, no.
I don't like that. I don't like
Yeah.
that. You know what was wild? So I co-edit this free online magazine. It's called The Lucid Dreaming Experience. And if you go to luciddreamingmagazine.com, anyone can get it. But in this last issue, this young guy wrote me, and what happened to him was he had a traumatic brain injury. And the doctor told him, look, you will not make it for another year. You'll be dead in a year. And the doctor said, there's nothing we can do to help you. And so the guy said, not only was he poor, but he also didn't have insurance, but he said he had this enormous pain from the brain injury. And he said, for whatever reason, he thought that somehow lucid dreaming could help him. And so here it is, 5 years later, he reaches out to me and he says he wants to tell the story of what happened to him. And basically, with his last $100, he bought some books on lucid dreaming. I think he bought 2 of my books, read about healing, and he had a profound lucid dreaming healing experience. And he says, for the last 5 years, he's been able to hold down a job. He has a girlfriend. He doesn't have any of the pain anymore. And he just is one of these people who really took this and ran with it. So I'm not saying it'll happen with everybody. And again, it does take, it helps to be able to recall your dreams. It helps to be able to do the practices and all that kind of stuff. But for some people, have really surprised me. They've sent me incredible stories of apparent healing.
That's amazing. So could you, in your books, do you sort of try to help people about how to get to sleep and how to work through this that's going to make it easier for them?
Right. Yeah, I do. And again, in a podcast, I kind of simplify things. So there are aspects to it because some of it has to do with belief. Like there's a guy who wrote into our magazine, and he said he'd been reading, the magazine, the examples of people sending in who got healed. He had read my books about how people got healed, and he had been dealing with this bad knee for like 5 or 6 years. In a lucid dream, he becomes lucid. He remembers he wants to heal his knee. I think he might have put a ball of light over it or something like that. He said he woke up and he could walk down the stairs without any pain. Wow. And every day he would go, I can't believe this. I can't believe the pain's gone away. I just can't believe this. And he would keep saying, I can't believe this, can't believe this, can't believe this. And finally, on day 5 or 6 of him saying how he couldn't believe it, well, the pain came back, and so again, there's this belief aspect of it involved too, that you can either accept the healing, or you can doubt it, and doubt it enough until it goes away. But it's like that famous hypnotherapist Milton Erickson said, the unconscious is always listening. And if you believe it's impossible, well, then it's going to become impossible. But if you believe there's a chance or a possibility, at least you open up the door that much.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm a big believer in watch what you say, because the first time it's like in disbelief, oh my gosh, like this is great, I can't believe this happened. But you're right, continuing to say that, you're just telling them, oh well, I don't actually believe this, so yeah, take that away, right? And I just believe our words are so much like spells putting out there, and we limit ourselves by not allowing ourselves to believe in those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, you have to work through your own beliefs and expectation and your own focus and intent, all that kind of stuff. But it's the potential here, I think, is truly amazing.
So if there's any message that you could leave the followers, what piece of advice would you give?
Whether it's dreaming or lucid dreaming, they're both ways to connect with your inner self and get inner guidance. And so if you're on the path of dreaming, that's great. If you're on the path of lucid dreaming, that's great. It is one of those things where it's a long path, and you might not have instant success, but if you stay with it and work with it, and especially play with it, have fun with it, then I think you'll get to a point where the benefits outweigh all the work and time and effort that you put into it.
Awesome.
Very nice. Very well said.
Very well said. And where can we find you?
Yeah. So my website is at lucidadvice.com, and you can read about my books and all that kind of stuff. Then we have this online magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience, which you can find at luciddreamingmagazine.com. But I always love hearing from people. Also in our magazine, we have a place for people to submit their lucid dreams, because it's really instructive for me to see what people are doing. And sometimes I'm even blown away, just like this young guy, Jose, who managed to apparently heal his traumatic brain injury. Is like, wow, that's truly profound.
That is profound. That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And it just gives, for myself, I feel like so much hope from talking to you about this, about the different ways that this could really help, the people, or everybody, right? Like help heal addictions and help heal bad habits, and, help heal your whole body, your mind, your body, your soul, your anything. I love that.
Kim, about 3 years after my first book came out, I got this email from a young guy, and the first line was, "I am a meth addict." And here's what happened to this guy. He went into rehab twice. He grew up in a dysfunctional family, got into drugs, went into rehab at age 16, left rehab and got back into meth and became a meth addict again. Then he got caught by the police again and put in rehab. And he said he was so bored in rehab the second time that he was at his drug counselor's office and saw my book on the guy's desk and asked to read it, because he had some lucid dreams before, but never realized much about them. Anyway, he got so interested in this idea that you can communicate with your unconscious mind, because in the book I tell how you can just ignore the dream figures and just basically ask a question of your larger awareness, your unconscious mind. And so he began to have these profound lucid dreams where he talked to his larger awareness. And in one of them, the larger awareness said to him, "Do you want to see what your life will be like if you continue to use drugs?" And he said, "Sure." And he said for the next 10 minutes, it was like a video of all the people he would hurt, all the harm he would do to his own body, all the mayhem he would cause, and he said when he woke up from that lucid dream, he decided he'd go cold turkey. And so he was writing me 3 years later because he had just gotten his associate's degree at a community college. And he knew if he had achieved that, then he'd have stayed clean for 2 years. But he shared some other examples of interacting with his larger awareness in the lucid dream. And I was blown away. I was just like, whoa, you have a very caring, loving, larger awareness there, because it's given you the full treatment. And so again, it's amazing that people are able to use this technique of lucid dreaming to just resolve issues that most people would say were unresolvable.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think it's all about believing in the power of the mind, and never stop, being out there. It doesn't matter how much to some people it seems like we're whatever, but I mean, as long as we keep reaching beyond our own expectations, that anything's possible, right?
Yeah, I really think so. And I think dreaming is a wonderful path to kind of connect us with our own inner awareness and make us realize that there's more going on than just this surface world, that there's an inner world too, that is another approach to dealing with the issues of the outer world. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we really, really appreciate you being on with us today. And I could talk to you, and I'm sure Mom can too, forever about this, because it fascinates me. So I'm definitely going to get your books to read. And I just really appreciate you taking the time out with us to be on our podcast and talk about this. And we'd love to have you back if you ever have the time.
Yeah,
share more experiences, share more stories with us too.
Yeah, always happy to come back, and it's been a real joy. So thank you both so much.
Yes, thank you too. And remember, everybody, to like and follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see you next time.
You bet you will. Thanks very much.